Namaste, Galactic family, and welcome back to the channel. Come on into this dimension. Today I have two very special guests on the show to talk about a very mysterious and relevant and recent happening that seems to be going on worldwide in all kinds of different animal species, but most recently it's been happening in the sheep, which have been acting a bit different. So whenever animals act strange, it does seem to capture our attention. So some of you may have heard of this already, the sheep circling that went viral from China. So I just wanted to thank you so much for being here today. We have Chris Anatra from Quantum Businessman on YouTube and Sean Bond from Psionic League on YouTube as well. So I just want to say thank you both, gentlemen, for being here today. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing really well, and it's great to be with you again, Indy. The last time we got together was back on April 20th when we had another fun show, our 420 show. So I'm sure everyone that watches this one is going to find it interesting, fascinating, and fun. So I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today.
I'm also well today. This is a fun topic. Looking forward to see what these sheep are doing from your guys' perspective, and we piece the puzzle together, find out what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. So, and just like Chris just mentioned, last time that we all got together was a lot of fun. We actually covered an untouched topic, which was the galactic origins of cannabis. So I'll just actually do a quick screen share. I really suggest everyone, especially if you're new to my channel, to go back and check out this video that we did on the galactic origins of cannabis. It was a 420 special, and we really dived in and we really touched on so many topics. But I think the main exciting thing that we talked about was brought this new perspective of where cannabis came from on a galactic level. And that was a really fun show, you guys. What was your feedback after doing that show? Did a lot of people kind of respond to that? We're kind of interested on those galactic origins of cannabis.
I'm just going to say that I can't believe how much my hair has grown since that show. But yeah, a lot of people had their own stories. We put this also on our channel as well, on the Quantum Businessman. I think Sean put it on his as well. And yeah, got a lot of good feedback and heard a lot of people's stories. So it was definitely very informative for everyone.
Yeah, a lot of stoner demographics, so it's good getting that in, bring them more in touch with spirit as they tap into those higher dimensions and wisdom and intuition and visions, so they can talk with the ganja goddess and the angels.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one main question that a lot of people really have too is, how do I approach ganja? How do I approach marijuana and psychedelics and plant medicine with being spiritual? So it was really good to, I think, to address those topics and kind of give people a perspective of where we come from when it comes to all of that. So definitely check it out, you guys. Links will be down in the description so you can go back and watch that. And so, yeah, let's get into this sheep circling.
Yeah, so I could start with a little bit of history, what's been going on with this. So it started on, I've got some notes here. It started on November 4th in China, in the inner Mongolia section, in a town called Baotou, Baotou. Now, what's really interesting about this town of Baotou is that the Great Wall of China actually runs through that town, runs through that area. It's called the Guyang section, which is one of the oldest parts. It's 2,500 years old, that section of the Great Wall. So I thought that was really interesting. And also too, so where the sheep started circling was in pen number 13 of 34 pens. So, numbers mean something. So it was pen number 13 where they started circling. And the sheep are circling in a clockwise manner. So not counterclockwise, but clockwise. And I think that's probably important for us to talk about too. But that gives everyone a little bit of insight about what's been going on. They circle for at least 12 days, I think maybe even 14 days. I think by now they've stopped circling because probably the farmers were like, okay, it's time for some wool or whatever, whatever they need to do at the farm. But yeah, it was definitely a phenomena that caught a lot of worldwide attention.
Definitely. So I'm going to actually screen share really quick so we can just show this video for everybody watching today what this looked like. Okay, so this is the animals displaying the odd behavior, walking in the circles. What does this mean? At night, God 333. Really, you can find these videos all over YouTube on multiple different channels. This completely went viral. And one thing that we discussed coming before we jumped on together today was how it seems to be like there's a lot of different types of videos that are coming up with different animals doing this circling behavior. So what do you guys think that this actually means on a deeper level?
Yeah, I'll just say I'll start first by saying, so when this video of the sheep circling first surfaced, scientists were trying to answer and figure out, like, what is it? Is there a scientific reason for it? And the first thing that they came out with was that they thought it was a brain disease called listeriosis, which can cause circling in animals. Not really circling in herds, like an animal would circle like a dog chasing its tail. But they later ruled that out because if an animal has that disease, they usually die within 24 to 48 hours. So because this was going on for days and days and days, they figured that couldn't be part of it. And there are all different types of theories that continue to come out. The latest theory that came out was that the sheep are bored. So, so they all started like circling each other because they didn't know what to do. It's being penned up all day is kind of a boring thing. So that's the latest theory that science has about what was happening with this. And of course, like, you can start to like read into it, and other people have been saying, could this be related to the Earth's changing magnetic field? Could it be related to the pole shift? Could it be related to all this extra solar and cosmic radiation that's coming in? So we're going to talk about these and some of the other things that it might be, including I got some information from the Akashic records about what it might be as well. So, Sean, what's your input on this so far?
Lots. And yeah, going into like all the possibilities, because I don't like just saying, oh, what it is. I like presenting the options and allowing people to tune in. Could it be a negative thing or a good thing? Like, I'm leaning more towards good thing, but like, like I've heard a lot of theories on like, oh, what could be happening in 2022 that's different than other things, and like what have these sheep gone through, these poor sheep. No, or is there a 5G involved, or like, different types of frequencies? Are they a warning of something like in the future? A lot of people are like, oh, the rapture, all the animal things coming into flocks and all that, like in the Bible. Uh and then you brought up a video before of like people going around a circle like in Mecca. So whether I'm reading there's conscious action behind this that's influencing it, but even if there wasn't, like, what's the effect of things moving around in a circle off over and over again? Well, in magic, as you walk in a circle, in a consecrated magic circle, is the more you charge it up. Every time you do a rotation, it amplifies it in octaves, and with more people or consciousness, even more so. So this very activity creates chakras on the earth that are birthing powerful multidimensional beings. So a lot of times in the nests of animals, or in ant hills, or bird nests, or trees, or like squirrels, or whatever, there'll be a first or higher octave chakra that's formed out of that like goes from the center of the earth upwards in a connection of heart space, and then it can form a energetic chakra associated with like the 7 main chakras in concept, and then going deeper into type of a mission and thing it's good at based on who the spirit involved that made it, then is a guardian over it in spirit from then that time onward. So just doing these, consecrating magic circles by rotating over and over again. The Wicca religion likes to do clockwise, but I've also seen good things with counterclockwise. So it depends on the intention. And also there's spirals that go into intention, such as 4 major spirals that have to do with either circulating inward or going outward, going outward from the center or going outward. So it's like sealing, unsealing, banishing, and binding is the see if there's any there's probably more in aspects of that technology, of course, because and you don't have to be as like, oh no, if you spin this way it can only be this, more so with intention, but like some rotations are better at amplifying other intentions. So is that, and then this charges up energy. We're like batteries. We're like we have all animals have Dantian, and they charge up density of light and energy. And so just doing this in a collective, and they sync up, it can do a lot for the land in a good way. It could even be spurred upon by the land, like the magnetic fields and how they affect like pigeons and stuff, and how they always know which way to go. There could be something powerful in that spot, that place of power that they're following, that they're sensitive to, that they're reacting to. That being said, and you guys can like comment. I got like a lot more to comment into this, so feel free to continue, and then I'll come back to me.
It definitely brings up a lot for me, just intuitively looking at this. Like I kind of mentioned that I think anything, again, with animals doing something, we're going to start looking deeper into it. We're going to start going into the deeper meanings and what does this mean? Because this is something that went viral, right? So everyone now is looking at this. Experts are looking at this. There's so much speculation about what this truly and really means. And I had brought up earlier the movie Arrival, talking about the aliens that came in the spaceships, and they came to teach humanity a new language of peace. And they were drawing these circles. They were, in every single part of their language actually was some form of a circle with some other different design in it. So I think anything regarding a circle is somewhat of a message of unity, of wholeness, of coming back to the meaning of what a concentric circle means in the first place, which often concentric circles mean eternal life, or the connection to the eternal life, or the eternal spiral, the golden ratio, all of these things. So, and just like I mentioned before, they're moving in a clockwise motion. So clockwise usually means life. Clockwise usually means acceleration and electric energy, and also masculine energy as well. Sean was just going into the meanings of, a clockwise motion spiral versus an anti-clockwise spiral and what that means. And yes, I do think that there is a lot of confusion in that as to, well, if we're using a clockwise motion, this is good, or if we're using anti-clockwise, it's bad, or vice versa. And again, I think it's up to speculation, perspective, and intention with that energy. Because there's a lot of attunements that I've personally done just to clear my energy field, where we're focusing on both spin sets, because it's attuning to the positive and the negative frequency in the body, which is electric energy and magnetic energy. So again, like you said, going back to intention, but oftentimes in some certain teachings and certain perceptions, the anti-clockwise spin does mean that it's going in a reversal motion, or it is going anti-clockwise. If you look at the Kaaba that we were just looking at not too long ago, I had it up on one of these pictures here, but I do believe that they are spinning in, I don't know where I have the Kaaba. I can just pull up a new thing. But I do believe they're going in an anti-clockwise spin when they're doing this. And I've remote viewed the Kaaba before, and it was as if that this is connected to something more nefarious because of what the cube represents. So there is definitely a lot of polarity that's coming up with this. In it's really bringing up the universal laws of polarity and the light and dark that I think we're facing as humanity when trying to overcome all of these challenging times. Because the cube itself is connected to Saturn, right? So we have this anti-clockwise spin, we have this Saturnian connection, and we have thousands of these Muslims that are rotating in that direction daily, millions of Muslims. So they're definitely drawing energy down into the earth and funneling it into some form of planetary mechanics that's utilizing that energy. I had talked about the Black Tesseract Cube architecture that's inside of the earth. So is this representative of that, given that these sheep have rectangular pupils? Is this all connected to this? I know, Christopher, you talked about the rectangular pupils of the sheep.
Yeah, what's really interesting too is that, well, for me, I consider that this is a personal Mandela effect, but the planet Saturn has a hexagon at its North Pole. Now, to me, I had never, I thought I saw in a lot of pictures of the planet Saturn, but I never noticed the hexagon. So what's interesting is that when you take a cube and you position it, a 3D cube in a certain position, it could form a hexagon. So it could actually, it's called a rucinated tesseract. And by the way, you put out some really good content about cubes and tesseracts and all that. So I just want to commend you on that work, Indigo, because that was very, very consciousness expanding what you were talking about. So yeah, is there a connection between Saturn, this cube of Mecca, the rectangular square-shaped eyes, pupils that sheep have, and other herding animals or prey animals is what they're called? Yeah, so to me, it's like when I see pictures like this that you have, it's almost like another reality, because I just don't remember seeing like these rectangular square shapes in animals before, for myself personally. So I think there's a lot you can read into this as well, this aspect of it.
No, definitely. That was something I was unaware of until this whole sheep circling thing even came up. I didn't even know that until you brought this to my attention. I'm like, wow, this is insane. They have square pupils, but they're not the only animal that does. Apparently goats do as well. I think horses,
octopus.
yeah.
You could go online. There's
Frogs.
literally like a whole list of animals that have these rectangular square-shaped pupils.
I was looking a little bit more into that, and it said that their pupils are like this so that way they have panoramic vision to the ground, and so that way they can detect potential predators better. So they have a 360-degree range of a panoramic vision, which I just thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think pupils are very indicative of the type of galactic energy, frequency, and embodiment of the soul body that spirit, that animal carries. I mean, if you look of reptiles, right, and lizards and things like this, like they have, and felines, they have the silver coined vertical pupil. And so, that's definitely very serpent. It's very draconic. So I've always associated those animals to carry that galactic energy. So, should we be looking at these land animals with these rectangular pupils thinking, well, they're an embodiment of Saturnian energy?
What do you guys think of fawns and satyr?
Fawns
They're
and
like
satyr.
sheep and goat people.
Oh,
Well, isn't Baphomet a goat?
As far as I know, Baphomet is a composite being made out of multiple deities taken together to make a new deity for Satanists and beings that worship that. And there's like origins going back to it with a faction of the Knight Templar that was discovered to be worshiping them, that was held in custody when I think the church was clearing out other sects, but there's a big deep cult into this being. So it's like, it will appear to people, but it's like parts and shadow from multiple beings put together, such as Pan. Yeah, and some other deities.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah, go ahead.
there's definitely a lot of connections. I mean, we between all three of us, I think we could connect this across so much space-time, with what it's connected to. I mean, really looking at what this is happening with this circling, it's almost as if, though, a lot of people are saying it's biblical, just given what sheeps do ultimately mean, that, because in the Bible, sheeps are the followers of Christ. It seems biblical with that. There was 12 days, right? 12 days that they're circling, 12
yes.
disciples, and even 13 as well. It's also a very magical number with the 13th pen. So it's almost as if, we're the sheeps following some voice of God to create this perfect clockwise circle, to send some sort of message to humanity to awaken us more in this time. It's kind of, I think that was actually my first thought when I looked at this.
Yeah, and even in the Bible, it says that you can find the truth in nature. There's scriptures that kind of reveal that. And so when you think about sheep too, usually sheep will have a shepherd, and the shepherd directs them where to go. So when sheep are circling, they're not really sure where to go. And could that also be a representation of the times that we're living in now, where people are getting like really confused? They don't know who to trust. Like, I think more and more people are not trusting the news media. They're not trusting their government. They're not trusting science and big pharmacy to tell them what to do and so forth. In fact, I just saw this poll that was out on Twitter by this actor. His name is James Wood. And he put out this poll that said that it was only for people that had the jabber. And basically what it was is he asked, if knowing what you know now, would you still have gotten it? And almost 90% of people said no. So a lot of people are like changing their minds, and they're confused and they don't know who to follow. So this could also be something you could read into what's happening, because times are really changing. Like, they are really accelerating now, especially as we head into the end of this year. So
Yeah.
there's different parts of that.
Good point. I definitely agree with that. Like you said, with not trusting Willy Wonka and Big Farm and all of these things, farming humans, I think I looked into something earlier that said the FDA was looking to ban things like garlic, lemon, like these real disease, antioxidant, immunity boosting vegetables. They want to actually start banning things like this. If that's not some clear indicator that we're going in this, that the agendas of these corporations, these Baphomet ran corporations, Saturnian ran corporations, I'll just come out and say it like that, that there's just something really wrong with the way things are, especially with, this hijacking of our food. So, yeah, these are all signs, I think, of revelational times, where it's definitely time to wake up. Pay attention to what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
And Indigo, have you seen that show, The Magicians?
I have.
I haven't. What's it about?
Right. Okay. So it has this cast of characters, but here's like a link to one of the deities in that show. It goes into kind of like a Narnia realm of a realm that they go to that's sped up in time and magical and stuff. And the two creators of it are these fawn gods, Ember and Umber, and it's like going into the concept of them creating a whole world and then being chaos and order and kind of being soft closed in that. So whether people the fawn and satyr mythos goes back farther than people really know about, Greek, Celtic, Gaelic, and even to Atlantis. I I track them back as a real species, but and then so a lot of them are extra dimensional and then other realmly, and then can use sheep as a unentangled observer technology to see what's going on in the world, and they can influence things. So I also went into tracking back what is influencing these sheep in this higher mind, and I'm sure Chris also has some things you can bring up to that too.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Sean?
I can. And are you able to put some of those other videos I put up while we're talking? Let's see. And then yeah, so some I
This one?
won't.
This one?
Yeah, whatever else you got, and some of them have been disproven and all that, and so I'd ask everyone before they spread more of this to have timestamps and where it is, and then if it's been seen as true, and like what we've been talking about, depending on how long it lasts, and if it's not broken up. This is an easy way to get viral, so it shouldn't really break it up unless some authorities come in. It's annoying. They don't seem to be killing themselves, like just spinning around in circles till they die. They seem to be like taking shifts like a protest would, and cycling out. So with this, though, the sheep one in China, I was reading mostly into that one. There's a bunch of different aspects to it. It seems to pre-tell like something amazing going on the planet, which goes along with the consciousness of Earth herself being more whole than she has been in a while since the fall of Atlantis. Since at that point she kind of went into a coma for a bit, and now she's kind of like groggy and waking up and all that, and taking back more of her stuff and authority and empowering things, and then utilizing this strategy chess move of optimization of time with all the cells of her body, which be like us and all the consciousness as caretakers. It seems to tell something I'm translating as the great energy accumulation, which seems to be a type of technology that planets can, well, really anyone, fractaling up and down. It's like a qigong technique of charging up or gathering energy and accumulating it, compressing it, increasing your energy density, and kind of turning into a pearl in qigong. But let's do this on the planetary, let's say on the planetary level, where it's accumulating a large amount of energy and then is going to do something with the amount of energy it's built up after it's done. So what that can be used for, it seems to be camouflaging it, but it's based on its history of what it's done in the past, things like amplifying the people's awareness, their consciousness, awakening them, upgrading evolution, making it so there's more capabilities, getting rid of problems, great growth and evolution, and then resolving a whole bunch of things all at once with a whole bunch of energy. I could say it's something around that type of thing. Then So there'll be some type of explosive in a good way, not in any negative, but like mission of that energy after the energy accumulation is done. I also read a whole bunch of famous or popularity energy with this, which goes into how easily it went viral, which goes into there's not just normal consciousness influencing this. And Chris and me kind of read into this at this around the same time with who are the beings doing this. I read there's like a Chinese, there's a strategy going on. It seems to be like big consciousness having to do with sheep influence and management. So some type of sheep gods, but also something to do with Japan, where there seems to be a little bit of a battle between the gods of Japan and the dark forces dominating the Chinese people in China. And they're for a while I've been tracking back that China has these dark forces and sorcerers that are throwing negative energy and stealing people's stuff and dominating and draining energy from other nations surrounding it. Japan's been kind of doing a lot of major energy activations to itself and growing and getting stronger, interestingly. So there seems to be a counter going on to China from the Japanese gods, especially Izanami and Izunagi, the two of the main creator gods, as well as the Japanese consciousness of the island's chain, the main consciousness itself. So and like it being at the border of where the Chinese the Great Wall is, and like with the history of the Great Wall and a lot of people being sacrificed and putting into the wall, and like this big amount of psychic defense and stuff from the Mongolians to prevent their magic from breaching. There might be a strategy with breaching the great spiritual wall of China with this. It seems to be breaking through the matrix aspect of China, the negative matrix. It seems to be in promoting freedom of enslavement. So it's also funneling and freeing people and spirits mostly trapped in China. And if you've seen a bunch of the footage, which I also put up in the chat, if you can bring those up, that China's going through a revolution currently with a large amount of protests that's spurring up that the algorithms are censoring like quite a bit. Yeah, it's in the chat. It should be.
Yeah, I have to just go back to it.
No.
Was it the last one that you sent me?
I put it under Chinese protests. It's like a few up after Saturn's cube. The first two under China protests, which I can also bring up if you're having trouble.
Okay.
Things are really intensifying in China, especially lately. Like it's always been crazy, but people are really revolting and protesting.
Wow.
Yeah, they're mostly protesting the lockdowns and restrictions, the zero COVID policy, and quarantine people in their houses, and sometimes them starving. Yeah, there's a lot of messed up stuff going on with that and the social credit score, and so all these people are rising up now. So it's pretty interesting to see the timing with this all. So I'm sure there's some energetic freeing of the collective consciousness of China too. It doesn't seem to be Japan doesn't seem to be doing anything super negative to China or the people, but is more so opposed to the thing that's been attacking it, and so it's breaching that. There's a breach in that fortress. Yeah, I know you have some stuff to go on this, Chris.
Yeah, so thank you for all that, Sean. So just to add to what you've been saying, so like when I was looking into it too, with the Akashic records, like the first thing I was getting was the term like mind transfer. So what's going on with this sheep? So something to do with a mind transfer. So basically something was affecting their brains to actually start circling, like to cause them some kind of an influence. And I was getting also, it was related to Japan, and it was related to those two creator gods, Inzangi and Inzami. I don't know much about them, but I know they're very important in the Japanese mythos. And I thought, like you were saying, what would be key to all this is if these sheep were actually opening a magic portal to invoke the spirits of these gods to come in from a higher dimension. It would really be the best thing if it was within the Great Wall of China. So when I found out that that town was actually, that's where the Great Wall of China was going through, it kind of, no, I don't know exactly where the sheep pens are related to the Great Wall, but it would add more weight to it if that pen is actually located, within the Chinese side of the Great Wall of China. And like you were saying, with all the sacrifices that they did for the Great Wall, the bodies that are put into the Great Wall, if all that has an effect on what's happening and is maybe helping to amp up the situation and what's going on with the sheep. And the other thing that I was getting is, so I was looking into the Akashic records and wanting to find out, like, okay, why? What's the outcome? And I was getting a few things. The first thing is called change transition, which makes sense because it seems like China's going through a beginning like a really big change transition. They want the dictator of China to step down. That's what a lot of these protests are about lately. And also awakening energy. So these Japanese gods bringing in awakening energy into China. And then I was also reading into, I didn't go into all the specifics, but things related to the heart and things related to the throat. So almost like the people having a voice now. So all these things, when you look at it from another angle, like adds more interesting things. Like, could this be just more things for us to consider as possibilities?
Can you bring the video up of the guy levitating, by the way, so that people kind of know what the power of magic circle could be? That it can be many different directions. Mostly has to do with intention, where what's the consciousness trying to do in manifestation or get things done, as well as what their souls and their DNA tech is good at. So, and sheep, yeah, they're versatile. So there's quite a lot that can be done. So here's a African shaman that is, and you can go to my channel, Sac League, goes into this guy levitating after, consecrating the circle for a while and circling around it and then lighting a fire and then being seen levitating from multiple angles through camera. So yeah, there's quite a bit to magic circles and what they can do
Yeah.
as a representation of the micro and the macro, our bodies, the universe as a whole, and being protected in it, having an intention of amplification, invocation, evocation, the crossroads between the material world and the spirit world. There's many powerful things that can happen through it, both positive and negative, and light and dark, and all the layers in between. Tension, depending on where you're getting that energy from, and if you source from yourself or in energy, your divine connection within the source of everything, prime creator, galaxy, universe, Earth, or external forces that aren't always going to be in your benefit. So be careful.
Just something that came to me off the top of my head while you were pointing out the importance of the circle, and then Chris, you were talking about Japan. It had me thinking about particle accelerators. So I've done a bunch of deep dives on CERN. Particle accelerators are also moving either in a clockwise or an anti-clockwise circular motion. There's more than one particle accelerator on the Earth. There's multiple. I wonder sometimes if, this sheep circling could be something that they're picking up on the degradation of the geoelectromagnetic field and could be mimicking the circling due to the running of the particle accelerators, potentially something like that. I know that there's one in Japan and it's called Keck. And so, particle accelerators definitely have a lot to do with human consciousness and the way that we're responding to gravity and electromagnetic fields. And so, there's one here in Tsukuba, Ibaraki, Japan. But yeah, so I mean, these particle accelerators could have, effects on the animals the same way, and could have something to do with it being that it is in Japan.
It's interesting. It's called Kek. That's an Egyptian frog god, and that I recently saw that was brought up with the meme Pepe the Frog, and there's like a whole rabbit hole with that, and
yeah, no, there definitely is. I think Keku is the god of destruction in Egyptian mythology. Like he is the dark one that you don't want to mess with, type of thing.
Besides, yeah, there's a bunch of dark ones, like Apep or Apophis.
Yeah, and I think toads. I know toads have square pupils, rectangular pupils. I wonder if frogs have the rectangular pupils too. That would be interesting to look up. And I agree with what you're saying about the connection with these large hadron colliders, these cyclotrons. Are they technological magic circles? Can they be used to summon and open portals? I believe that they can. So I think there's definitely a connection. Also, too, with all the mining that we do of rare earth minerals like lithium, for example, a lot of lithium deposits are in China. And could all of these rare earth minerals that we're extracting from the earth also be playing a part in the changing of Earth's magnetic field, and maybe accelerating the changes even more? So all these different things play into this fabric, this tapestry of what's going on here with these sheep.
Yes, absolutely. It just got me thinking about amnesic technologies. Some of my research has taken me into that these hadron collider particle accelerators have been around since the Egyptian Sumerian invasion, and that these could have been experimental and intentional to actually wipe the memory of humanity, and that things like particle accelerators, Area 49, Area 51, Area 52, Area 58. There's all kinds of taking this technology to Mars, even, and have outpost centers for this research on other planets, that we might be recycling old timelines of planetary destruction back into the collective field, and it's getting wiped up into that amnesic technology for us to feel and represent the signs and the symptoms of these things, but have no recollection of these things ever happening whatsoever. And so, yeah, it's just amazing to me how much this sheep circling is really expanding the field right now and allowing us to bring so many concepts in. So, I mean, that goes to show you what it's really actually doing on a collective level. Something so simple as sheep circling are really opening up some really big conversations.
Can you bring up the video I just sent last? Chris used this in a scene. It's from the show Good Omens. It's the guy that made a highway going around. So like this used in the negative intention. If you can play it with sound, it's funny.
Yeah, hang on. To move my thing out of the way.
I can't hear it. Do you hear it on your end?
My sound's a little low.
Back in the 1970s.
Now I can hear it. It's getting louder.
It's getting louder. Keep going.
It's still hard to hear.
I have it turned all the way up on my end, so I'm not sure I can get it much louder.
Interesting.
When it opens in 1986, actually looked like
Okay, so this guy made a big, he said he made it so that he changed the freeway design around London so that he turned in a giant magic circle and made it so that people are stuck in traffic, accumulating negative energy from being frustrated in traffic, and then puts all that energy towards demons. So they're an evil intention. So how many of our circular freeways are like giant magic circles, like a slow churning negative psychic energy generating machine? But like, you know, that's for the negative version of this.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing about the hadron colliders, the cyclotrons. I was reading into one in one of the videos I created, talked about one in Brookhaven, New York, which is in Long Island part of New York. And that I was reading into that cyclotron was specifically used for what I would call timeline insertions. So you talked about the possibility of them being used for amnesia and that type of a thing. Also the possibility to take an event from one timeline and copy and paste it into the timeline that we're in now, so that history actually changes. So if you go back and look at the historical record, things might be very different from, you know, what you knew before. So, and those type of things could be some of the causes for what we call Mandela effects, especially the historical ones. And they're nonstop. Like I tell you, every time I look at history and I think I know history, things are not the way I remember at all. Like, just to mention one, just kind of random, this is like a Pearl Harbor World War II one, and we're coming up on December 7th, so it's kind of something that's somewhat timely. But I didn't realize in my old timeline, the Japanese only bombed Pearl Harbor once. In the timeline that we're in now, they bombed Pearl Harbor again 90 days later. And it wasn't as successful as the first one, but I had never known about that before. And all these other things, like all these other changes, like nonstop things that are happening, timelines merging, could cyclotrons be responsible for some of them? It's all like a really fascinating subject.
And every time, like, different places and the collective consciousnesses of, like, Japan, for instance, go through a big healing, resilience, getting more wholeness, you know, burst of evolution, it'll affect their entire timeline in all their capabilities, including their ability to send energy to influence back in time to make things better for themselves. And Chris, did you go over like some of the other stuff, like the instinct thing and the sacrifice thing that you read into?
The instinct and the sacrifice. Refresh my memory with that. I have some.
We were talking about this yesterday. You're like reading into like, oh, this kind of greater instinct that's within the sheep. That's like you're reading into what's moving them in this fashion. And it's like that force part of it. The instinct is a root chakra, animalistic DNA ancestry sense that can be intensified or grained like a knife kind of thing. We also read there sacrifice energy with, you know, in magic circles that can be very powerful. It doesn't have to be like death. It can be like worship. The origin of the word worship, which used to be you'd worship, which you'd work for your god, you would create, you would like make monuments and all that. And just like walking in a circle, like how Mecca uses that to get closer to God, their god Allah, which I read that whole thing is a giant egregore, which is a giant collective consciousness for Allah connection and everything in that collective consciousness, half good, half negative, depending on, you know, with the moral differences that Islam has, like whatever you want to go into. it amplifies their god's presence and its influence through their, lineages, and a lot of other stuff, as you both know. I also read that this one is acting like a portal for Izanami and Izanagi to have more like slow trickle themselves in presence there. So depending on how long the sheep circle, then it's similar to us bringing more of our higher self into our body, them manifesting themselves more into the physical 3D world. Not they may, like when you look at how's this work, and like, are they not all here? Like, well, some of the gods stepped out, or they have like a anchored presence in a particular space that recognizes that and venerates them, and people worship them. They may have like a whole city that they look after. It depends on what god and all that. But yeah, not all the time. A lot of them like to step out, especially if they're being attacked, or they're meant to, depending on, the more interference that they have, and other greater beings telling them they have to, stop interfering and take a little step back in the game as well. Didn't you say you read a black hole technology, Chris?
Yeah, it's funny because you're bringing that up, and I was actually reading that regarding something else that I was working on, but I didn't make that clear to you. But yeah, the black hole technology was something else that I was reading into.
Okay, gotcha. So okay, like with that, like even if it was something different, then okay, that makes sense. So I'm still getting it's an accumulation of energy, and that is like a yin aspect of generation, which is receptive or cumulative, and so it kind of acts like a black hole, but not really. But this is accumulating energy. Yeah. So I continue with what you were saying.
I definitely think it's clear that there's some form of a portal that's being opened, channeled, accessed. It's anything circular is a form of working with and through a vortex of some sort. That's just something that I think I've intuitively done as well, even with some of my own personal spiritual things that I've done, where I've done circular motions, where you're intuitively knowing that you're working with that portal energy. So I think whatever's coming through, whether it's positive or negative, it's definitely a message from higher consciousness on this earth. And so I'd like to know what everyone else thinks that's watching today. So if you guys want to go ahead and drop it down in the comments, let us know what you guys think, because yeah, this is really interesting. And we think there's going to be a lot more that's going to come forward when it comes to this. So we're excited to hear what all of you guys think. And also, if you guys can, go ahead and subscribe to Sean's channel at Psionic League, and because he's got a lot of good content and stuff that he talks about. Is there anything on your channel that's hot topics that they should go and check out?
I mean, it's whatever. I just release sex talk, so there's that. But I also got it on my membership site. I'm releasing all these video procs on abilities, so for people to download. Like the last one I just put up was block removal. It has the link to that. Just releasing all the blocks on you, and mostly the spirit. Then going into mental blocks, emotional blocks, and soul blocks, and physical blocks later, and then everything going into the energy harvesting system and how to detach from it and get more energy for yourself. But yeah, how about you guys? How do people reach you? I know I'm on psionicleague.com, Psionic League YouTube, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. And also, Chris, go ahead and subscribe to Quantum Businessman as well. He's got a lot of really interesting and cool stuff that he talks about, usually around the Mandela effect. But have you kind of started to go in some other directions in terms of your topics? It looks like you might have.
Yeah, definitely. Because the Mandela effect, definitely catches a lot of people's imagination because it begins to give them raise questions about what our reality is, and is it possible we're literally just dreaming right now? Like, is this a dream? Is this a holographic reality? What's going on? So yeah, I've been expanding into other things too. Doing a lot of interviews with people as well. Created a couple of videos based upon the light language that I speak. One was for a soul family homing beacon, and the other one was for a heart opening light language meditation. So yes, I'm expanding into that and getting all different areas, just all these things that I'm interested in and sharing them with other people. And I'll just mention too that I finally started doing this, but people have been asking me about doing sessions for a while, and I've always said I don't really want to do that. But on my website, quantumbusinessman.com, there's a section now where if you want to, you can sign up for a session with me. I'm only going to do a few a month, but if that's something you'd want me to do, look into your Akashic records, do some light language for you, talk about business type things, all these different things that could come up. Basically about healing and making you more whole. So
that was something I actually did want to ask you about, because quantum businessman, the universe is based on commerce. I would actually like to dive into your theory on that at some point, because I'm sure that is pretty interesting. I feel like I've been starting to see into that more recently with how everything is flowing in terms of wealth and finances, especially in the spiritual community, and how we can tie that all in and make sense of all of it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that with you. Like trade and equal exchange of energy. And then when you start to explore more of the solar system and galaxy, and is like the universe actually based on commerce and trade and productivity? So
Yeah, because it does seem to be pointing that it is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thanks guys for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this show, and yeah, we'll be back for another one soon. So take care and have a beautiful everything. Thanks guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day. Thank you guys.